You are tuned into an episode of Faithful Friday on the Faithful Sinners. Friends, welcome back to Faithful Friday on the Faithful Sinners podcast, where imperfect stories meet with perfect grace. My name is Timothy Baker, and this week we walked straight into one of the most uncomfortable truths of the human heart: the reality of being addicted to addictions. And it's not just the substance or just the habit, but the cycle itself. And today, we're closing the week out by reviewing what we've learned, what we've lived, and what we're choosing to change. Now, on this Inspired Sunday, we talked about something most people feel but often fail or simply refuse to identify. And that's sometimes the addiction isn't the thing. It's, as I shared, the feeling the thing gives us. And once that addiction pattern itself is baked into your nervous system or your daily routines, well, that addiction becomes a home that you hate, but you keep returning to because at least you know how to survive it, right? Well, that's the part that hit home for so many of us this week, because it's not just the act, it's the loop. The loop I shared that begins with shame, which then turns into hiding and isolation. Then it becomes a craving, which leads to collapse. And guess what? Right back to shame again. It's a spiritual treadmill that's predictable, exhausting, yet familiar. And for some of us, it's decades old. And we return to these addictions because it gives us something, even if it's killing us. We go back because bondage is familiar and freedom is foreign. But this week, we also reminded ourselves of something deeper, something stronger. And that is that God doesn't just break chains, He breaks these cycles, these loops. He doesn't just pull you out of a pit, He actually teaches you how to walk a different path and feel and think in a new way. He doesn't just silence the shame, He's replacing it with a relationship. That's the shift. That's the freedom. That's the part that begins when we stop trying to fix ourselves and surrender these burdens to Him. Now, I shared this week that this topic isn't theoretical for me, it's very personal. I've lived in many addiction loops. I've tried every method and relapsed into cycles I swore I would never revisit again. And it wasn't until I changed my mental approach and until I stopped asking God to help and instead gave it to Him to burden the bear on His shoulders. That's when the real freedom began. And after years of research and trial, of failure and grace, I had built something that finally helped me, which is 66 Fix. It's spiritual, it's mental, it's practical, and it's available on our website for anyone who needs a fresh starting point, a structure, or simply needs a lifeline. So if you missed it, you can explore these 66 Fix resources anytime on our website at thefaithfulsinners.com. And this week's Fire Starter Challenge was simple, but not easy. It was to identify the addictions that are in your life, not just the obvious ones, not just the ones that people talk about, but those hidden ones. Maybe things like overthinking or people pleasing or anger cycles, chaos chasing, numbing behaviors, validation seeking or workaholism, or comfort addictions. But then your challenge was to pick one and just one and begin overcoming it today, this week, knowing that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be instantaneous, but it will have intentionality. And to leverage those 66 Fix tools. Use the prompts in our corresponding devotionals. Use the cycle interrupters. Use the spiritual resets. They're all waiting for you at thefaithfulsinners.com. And friends, remember, freedom isn't a switch, it's a daily shift. And we're going to stumble, but that's okay. It's a matter of getting up. And this week, many of you took your first step. Some of you identified addictions you've never maybe spoken aloud. Some of you confronted cycles you've been trapped in for years. And some of you chose discomfort over destruction. And maybe that was for the very first time. But guess what? That's the work. That's the walk. That's the rise. Because here's the truth: you don't overcome addiction with willpower, you overcome it with belief, and a belief that God is stronger than what binds you. As it says in Philippians 1:6, it promises that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion, meaning that God doesn't start what he will not finish. So remember, and this is very important, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. So thank you for walking through this week with me. If this message has encouraged you, please subscribe on our channel and then follow, like, and share it with someone who may simply need a little direction today. Now, as a reminder, starting next week, August 28th, we begin to broadcast these Faithful Friday episodes live at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. This is an exciting time for the Faithful Sinners community, as we will be able to connect with you guys on the weekly topics, respond to the comments that were posted during the week, and also those that are posted live during the broadcast. So I truly do hope that you will join me as we take this next big step forward on our journey. And make sure you tune in at the end of this weekend for a new episode of Sinspired Sunday, where our topic will be about divorce and the impact on the spouses and especially the kids, and a special message around fathers that are involved in these divorce processes. This is the Faithful Sinners, where we don't pretend to be perfect. We just try to be better than yesterday and sin better together. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Faithful Sinners, and get more inspiration on our website, thefaithfulsinners.com.